making money so I can get out of the house and go back into our own apartment. I want to make money. We need to make money.
Okay, gordo. 2 minutes.
I want to make money. We need to make money. That's what Jenny said, barely minutes before threatening to walk off the job she waited years to start. Not hours, not days, minutes. One cappuccino order, one plugged-out coffee grinder, and boom, she's already ready to pack up and go home. You'd think after all the drama it took to get this Café idea approved, she'd be the one holding it down, not running for the door as soon as the machine blinks red. So, what exactly lit the fuse? And why is this moment way bigger than just a cup of coffee? Welcome to Reality Sport. I'm Oliva. If you love spicy, smart commentary with real insight into what people are doing and why, hit that subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's get into the moment Jenny practically quit her dream 20 minutes after clocking in. Because first, the dream sounds decent enough. A cozy family cafe right in the heart of Summit's neighborhood. A chance for Jenny to finally stop feeling like someone else's house guest and start laying down roots of her own. But here's the irony. She doesn't want ownership of the relationship roots. She wants to own distance. Her real dream? A separate apartment. That's the pressure lurking under the calf signs and paper cups. Jenny's not here for fair trade espresso and quiet chats with locals. She's here to get out of the house, out of the bedroom, where every argument echoes through thin walls, out from under the side eyes of her mother-in-law. The calf isn't the goal. It's a way out. And they tried to start it right. Some would call the ceremonial start holy. Others might say, look, sprinkling cow urine across the floors and shelves isn't everyone's business plan. But culturally, it meant something to them. Still, between the contaminated food from a busted bathroom pipe and the viral-level awkwardness of that urine blessing launch, it was off to a start that even Jenny didn't try to pretend felt successful. But Summit, he saw it differently. He was proud, optimistic, a little wide-eyed, which, if we're being honest, makes things harder on Jenny. Because when he looks around and sees progress, and she looks and sees chaos, no one's driving the same car. She's thinking rent. He's thinking rituals. And this is where the boiling starts without anyone noticing. Jenny keeps saying, I want to make money, but behind the words, there's something shakier. She's not just broke. She's humiliated. An American woman in India, married into a family that still doesn't fully accept her, hustling for an espresso machine she barely knows how to use. She thinks effort should equal escape. But when nobody sees her effort as valuable, or at all, you get what we got. Jenny biting her tongue, doing the job she would have rolled her eyes at last season. What happens when a woman who hates being told what to do starts doing exactly what she's told, without a fight, with that quiet, dangerous calm? Assign yourself a job and don't stay idle. That line hit the air like a challenge. But Jenny didn't flinch. No scoff, no eye roll, no clapping back with one of her usual one-liners. She just nodded, walked to the counter, started prepping the coffee station like it was all perfectly normal. That silence? Way louder than she thinks. Jenny didn't fight, but not because she agrees. Something inside her is switching off, or breaking down. This isn't her playing along. It's her choosing survival. It's not peace. It's surrender. See, sarcasm has always been Jenny's armor. Backhanded comments, raised eyebrows, passive-aggressive sighs. If you've watched her long enough, those reactions are her version of communication. But today, flatlined. Nothing. She accepted a role she clearly wasn't ready for. No complaints. No mentions about being from California. Just a quiet, heavy walk toward the shiny, confusing coffee machine, and you could already feel the storm in the silence. That's why today feels off. It's not maturity. It looks more like burnout. Like she's done fighting, not because she's evolved, but because she doesn't think there's anything left worth fighting for. That's dangerous, because when she gives in, she gives up on improving anything. And that's how a calf meant to bring the family together ends up becoming a battleground with better lighting. Summit's family didn't ease her in. They threw her straight onto the front line. The new coffee machine? That was her territory now. The only high-end Western-style coffee grinder in the whole neighborhood. Or so they claimed. Flashy, yes. Friendly? Not even close. Jenny only practiced on it once. Summit's cousin gave her a crash course, which clearly crashed harder than anyone realized. But no one double-checked. They didn't assign her the role because she was skilled. They gave it to her because she's foreign. Because she's American. Because coffee equals modern equals her. It was less about her abilities and more about optics, an aesthetic choice, not a strategic one. And that's how they all underestimated how quickly the facade was going to crack. Because Jenny's big talk about wanting to make money? Sure, the motivation's there, but nothing about this setup is built for follow-through. She doesn't know where the milk goes. She isn't sure how the grinder switches on. She's staring at dials like they're props in a play she never auditioned for. And nobody seems to notice until the first real customer walks in and expects everything to be simple. What happens when ambition collides with a machine you don't know how to use in front of a customer who doesn't care about your backstory? The first customer walks in, looks around, and asks for a cappuccino. Simple order. At least it should be. But you could practically see Jenny's soul leave her body. She froze, smiled thinly, and muttered something about finding the milk container. Except she couldn't. It was nowhere in sight. She opened one cabinet, then another, then another. Each second dragged. The customer waited, confused. Her hands shook a little. Not enough to scream panic, but enough to hint she knew she was already in trouble. This wasn't a learning curve. It was public failure. And this is the real tension, not between her and the customer, but between what she wants and what she's ready for. Jenny said she wanted to make money. But money wants consistency. Money rewards speed, precision, confidence. Watching her fumble through buttons and levers like it's her first day on Earth, it became painfully clear. She was nowhere near ready for this. Her idea of independence was louder than her reality. Now here's where the comedy kicks in. Her father-in-law, bless him, notices the panic from across the room and steps in to help. Except he's just as lost. 2 adults, 1 machine, and 0 instructions between them. One whispering under his breath, the other hitting random knobs like they're trying to launch a spaceship. The machine whines, sputters, does everything except make coffee. Meanwhile, the customer? He's gone from politely amused to visibly over it. This was their first paying customer. A literal milestone for their business. And now, he's half laughing, half stepping behind the counter to show them their own machine isn't even plugged in. Let that sink in. Jenny, who's been talking about making money like it's oxygen, forgot the one cord that connects intention to action. And instead of embarrassment fueling some kind of bounce back, she rolls her eyes, makes a weak joke like this is all fun and quirky. No urgency, no ownership, just vibes. And not the good kind. The customer checks his watch, says he's got to go. And just like that, gone. Their first real sale? Vanished. 1 cappuccino, 2 meltdowns, and 0 rupees earned. You could feel the confidence deflate from the room like someone had slashed the tires on whatever fake optimism they marched in with that morning. This was Jenny's big shot to prove she could contribute. Instead, it showed that wanting things loudly doesn't make you capable of delivering them under pressure. In a family already watching her with doubt, today gave them ammo. And she knows it. When your first attempt at success ends in a customer walking out and the family shaking their heads, what's left to hold on to, other than your pride, already halfway out the door? By the time Summit stepped in, the damage was already done. The customer was gone. The grinder was finally plugged in, but the moment had passed. And as Summit looked at Jenny fumbling with the steamer wand like it personally offended her, you could see it on his face. He had crossed the line between hopeful and humiliated. One sentence was all it took to light the fuse. You have to try to do very quick. Jenny didn't yell. She didn't throw anything, but her voice dropped cold, sharper than usual. 1 beat. Then 2. Then the words, "You know what I can do? I can go home." In front of Summit. In front of her in-laws. In front of whoever was still lingering out front pretending they weren't eavesdropping. That wasn't a flare-up. That was a full emotional exit strategy. Jenny didn't just threaten to walk out of the caf. She dangled the idea that she might walk out of it all. It was a standoff without the yelling. Summit called her out gently, but directly. She says she's trying her best. He wasn't buying it. Not that easily. He'd seen her stay up hours to memorize lyrics to Bollywood songs, FaceTime her kids for hours, scroll Facebook until her phone hit 2%. But when it came to practice for this barista role, one rushed training session. And then vibes. This is where the deeper issue finally showed its face. They aren't really fighting about a cappuccino. They're clashing over control. Jenny feels unheard, unappreciated, always the outsider. Summit feels like she never fully commits unless she's in control. And this caf? It's a messier test of their marriage than either of them expected. Because now, he's not just her husband, he's her business partner, her translator, and today, her judge. Jenny shifted blame fast. She reminded him that he wasted food at the soft launch, that he didn't make a single rupee yesterday, that he's the one who keeps aligning with his family at her expense. And maybe she's not completely wrong. But that deflection also dodged something bigger. Her own accountability, the grinder not being plugged in, the milk being MIA, letting the customer point out the mistakes, none of that was on Summit. It was on her. And she knew it. But pride doesn't bend that easily. There was no apology, no acknowledgement, just that line again, "I can go home." And not the upstairs bedroom kind, the America kind. The kind that smells like finality, because when she feels cornered, Jenny doesn't lean in and try to fix. She threatens to quit. That's the pattern. So, if this is their first real obstacle as business partners, and they're already crashing like this, how are they supposed to survive bigger storms? Ones that don't come with a refund button? Summit didn't raise his voice. He didn't flinch. He didn't storm off. He just looked at Jenny with the same quiet exhaustion that hits when you realize you're stuck in a loop with no exit. For once, he wasn't playing the buffer between Jenny and his parents. He wasn't playing the good guy who lets things slide to keep the peace. He stood there, chest full of frustration, eyes sharp, and said what needed to be said. If this is your best, then you need to do more extra. It wasn't loud, but it hit hard. Jenny froze. The room felt smaller. You could see the confusion on her face, like she couldn't believe he'd say that here. Now, out in the open like this. She didn't push back with logic or problem solving. She doubled down emotionally. Her shoulders stiffened. Her face dropped. And her tone turned icy. Because for Jenny, correction doesn't sound like help. It sounds like blame. And she doesn't separate the feedback from the person giving it. So, when Summit questions her effort, she doesn't hear, "Help me make it better." She hears, "You are the problem." That's what makes them so combustible as a couple. Neither of them knows how to meet in the middle when their pride's in the ring. Jenny operates on feelings first. Summit, in moments like this, switches to logic, solution, expectation, But love doesn't live neatly in either lane, especially not when they're both running different emotional races under the same roof. And then came the third voice, Summit's dad. He'd been watching everything unfold, letting it play out longer than usual. But now he stepped in, not with support, not with strategy, but with pointed judgment. I'm frustrated with her, he said calmly, almost casually, like he was talking about a toaster that didn't work, rather than his daughter-in-law. And Summit paused. Because, for as upset as he was with Jenny, he wasn't about to let his parents throw her under the bus. That moment told us more about their dynamic than anything else this season. Summit's loyalty is scattered. He wears two faces, devoted husband and obedient son, and switches between them depending on the audience. But in that second, when his father criticized Jenny, Summit pushed back. Not loudly, not enough to cause a scene, but enough to mark a line. That tells you, deep down, he still sees himself as the bridge between two worlds. But what happens when even the bridge starts to buckle? There's empathy to be found here. Real, painful, human empathy. Because Jenny's anger isn't just ego. It's fear. She feels like she gave up everything. Her country, her comfort, her life back in the States, to stand next to someone who can't always shield her from humiliation. And Summit? He's carrying the weight of trying to build a life with a woman who doesn't feel rooted in the soil they're standing on. Jenny wants out, but not from the marriage. At least, not yet. She wants out of the dependency, the surveillance, the constant sense that nothing she does is ever quite enough. Her idea of escape isn't about leaving Summit. It's about them reclaiming their own space, their own dignity, away from the shadow of in-laws and passive-aggressive parenting dynamics. Meanwhile, Summit wants out too, but in a quieter way. He wants out of the mediator role, out of being the guy holding both ends of the sword. He wants collaboration, not combat. But he hasn't figured out how to create that without abandoning someone in the process. Is it going to be his wife? His parents? Or himself? This calf was supposed to be the bridge, a way to prove they could be functional, grown, self-reliant adults who made something together. Instead, it's revealing all the cracks they tried to keep hidden. Jenny lacking the training to succeed. Summit lacking the backbone to lead. A family lacking the foresight to understand that starting a business doesn't fix family trauma. It inflames it. And no one's holding it together. Not really. Jenny's blinking back disbelief. Summit's holding in rage. The dad's got judgment simmering just under the surface. And behind all this, the espresso machine is still hissing like it's mocking them. How do you build a new life together when every attempt to show progress only exposes where you're already falling apart? That failed cappuccino wasn't just an awkward moment in front of a customer. It was a perfect snapshot of everything broken in Jenny and Summit's marriage. One machine, one simple task, and both of them crumbled under pressure that had nothing to do with coffee and everything to do with control, unmet needs, and resentment that's been stacking for years. Jenny walked into that cafe thinking, if I work hard, I earn my freedom. But freedom to her isn't about building a business. It's about buying distance. Leaving Summit's parents' house. Moving to her own space where she doesn't feel like a teenager borrowing someone else's kitchen. That's the truth under every I want to make money plea. She doesn't want dollars, she wants dignity. Autonomy. A door she can close behind her without someone asking when she's going to start helping around the house. But Summit's playing a different game. His ambition isn't cash. It's credibility. He wants to show everyone he made the right choice marrying Jenny, after years of being told he betrayed family tradition and common sense. This calf is his proof, his redemption arc. And watching Jenny flounder in public ruins, not just the moment, but the image he's been polishing ever since she got off that plane. Right there is where the tension lives. Two people trying to escape different things, using the same fragile business to do it. She wants out. He wants validation. So every time a customer walks away, it hurts her dreams and his ego in completely different ways. And when emotions get this scrambled, it's no wonder that a coffee order turns nuclear in 5 minutes flat. Now add in the psychological chokehold of living with your in-laws. Jenny's a grown woman with kids of her own, and she's still sneaking around like a high schooler dating someone her parents don't approve of. She's been in that house for so long. The walls aren't just thin, they're judgmental. Every move she makes is clocked. Every comment she doesn't make is interpreted. That kind of pressure isn't loud, it's tight. It builds, quietly, until the smallest request, like make it quick, feels like a sucker punch. Summit says he wants peace, but what he really means is compliance. He wants Jenny to adapt, to grow into the version of herself his parents can live with. But Jenny isn't here to be molded. She's here to feel seen. That's the bridge they can't seem to cross, no matter how many fake smiles and polite silences they try to balance on. And let's be honest, this isn't the last time they'll implode on the job. If anything, today's disaster is just the trailer, because starting a business together doesn't cure personal issues. It makes them louder, more public, more expensive. If the barista station already cracked them open, what happens when they have to juggle finances, inventory, bad reviews, unpaid bills, and stress that doesn't come with a commercial break? Worse, they might start resenting the very thing they hoped would fix them. The Café isn't a fresh start anymore. It's a pressure cooker, and every coffee bean they grind comes with another reminder of what they haven't sorted between them. Jenny sees herself as the one who sacrificed everything. Summit sees himself as the one who held it all together. But the truth is, the gap between perception and reality is getting dangerous. They both feel unseen. They both feel unsupported. And instead of reaching for each other, they're reaching for escape hatches. The mutiny isn't loud yet, but it's simmering. Jenny's tired of biting her tongue. Summit's tired of keeping the peace. The parents are watching like referees who already bet on the outcome. One more failed customer, one more argument, one more night of sleeping in separate emotional corners, and someone's walking. What if this Café doesn't just strain their marriage, but burns it to the ground, one failed cup at a time? One coffee machine, one crumbling couple, and more than a year's worth of warning signs squeezed into a single shift. What started as a plan for financial growth now feels like emotional foreclosure. This Café was supposed to change their marriage, give it roots, independence, direction. But instead, it's become the latest stage where their dysfunction plays out in real time. Customers might see frothy cappuccinos and curious tourists. But behind the counter? It's two people barely able to share space, let alone a business. Zoom out, and it's not just about a cappuccino or even the Café. It's about identity warfare under one roof. Jenny left everything she knew to live in a country that still doesn't fully embrace her, and a household that rarely hides its disapproval. What to Summit might seem like a normal, tight-knit Indian family tradition, to her feels like a pressure cooker with 4 walls and no escape. She's not just adjusting lifestyles, she's swallowing culture shock, financial stress, and generational expectations with every breath. And then there's inflation. Cost of living isn't what it was even 2 years ago. Starting a business today means you're not just fighting competitors, you're fighting rising supply prices, unpredictable foot traffic, and a digital world where one bad online review spreads faster than steam from an overheated milk jug. So when Jenny says, "I need to make money," it's not greed, it's survival. A different currency than Summit is trading in, but just as urgent. But if Jenny thinks this is a new low for their relationship, she's forgetting one thing. She's threatened to leave before. More than once. During immigration stress. During vacation stress. During in-law drama. Each time, she packed her emotional bags and dangled the "I'll go home" card like a final boss move. And each time, she stayed. Why? Because deep down, she doesn't want to leave Summit. She wants Summit to start choosing her fully, loudly, and in every room, even when his parents are watching. But this time does feel different. Not because the fight was louder, but because it was quieter. Jenny's voice wasn't screaming. It was shrinking. That threat to go? It didn't come from rage. It came from resignation. She wasn't trying to win the fight. She was tapping out. And that's scarier. Summit, meanwhile, keeps folding into the role that's most comfortable. Supportive son. Non-confrontational partner. Peacemaker with no peace of his own. It's the emotional equivalent of pouring coffee without ever tasting it. He executes, he adjusts, and in the process, he erases himself a little more. Because what Jenny wants is not just a husband who loves her, but a partner who advocates for her. The kind who doesn't look for harmony by making her the optional one in every argument. This calf should have been the moment they stood side by side, building something that reflected both of them. Instead, it's exposing how different their visions of partnership really are. Jenny thought she was escaping a cage. Summit thought he was blending two worlds. What they're both waking up to now is much harder. They've built a business on top of an emotional fault line. And those don't hold forever. The most dangerous fights aren't always the loudest. They're the ones where someone stops offering feedback and starts offering exits. Where silence becomes scarier than screaming. And this morning in the caf, with one unplugged grinder and one lost sale, we saw it happen. So now, the question isn't, will they fight again? They will. The question is, what happens when Jenny finally means it? When she goes from "I can go home" to "I am going"? And will Summit really stop her? Or is he already choosing quiet survival over shared freedom? Can a business built on silence, sacrifice, and simmering tension ever deliver what the relationship really needs? Or is this calf just the first step toward the final split?